host and dear friend, Jose Ocaño, who's joining us from NOLA. Um, so I want to kick off this call with just a couple of announcements. So first, you all might have seen that we had a discussion thread in the pet forum, and that was really inspired by all of you and all of the presentations that we've had through the previous year. And we wanted to highlight some of the attendees from this call and to highlight the reflections that you all posted in the pet forum. So we selected 3 speakers who were gracious enough to join us and expand on what they shared in the forum. So that will be the focus of today's call. We're not going to do any formal national updates, but I do encourage you, if you have any updates to provide, please drop them in the chat so that we can capture those. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Jose, who's going to kick off the discussion with the question of the day.
Gracias, Nadia. All right, everyone, I'm going to just put the question of the day in the chat. And that is, what is one thing you learned from a call this year that you found had an impact on you, your organization, or your community? So as you think a little bit about that, we're also going to give, maybe a few people a chance to share that. If you want to unmute in a second, we're asking that everyone keep it to about a minute or less. So that way we can hear from lots of different folks. But as you all start to type this, or you start to build up the courage to raise your hand and share with us, Nadia, I would love to hear from you. What are some of your learnings or a learning?
Yeah, so this was last year was my first year being part of the steering committee, and so on the back end, I really appreciated seeing how much intentionality goes into developing these calls, and then seeing it on as an attendee, and I'm not always facilitating, just seeing the sense of community, and I know that did come through in the forum with what folks were posting. So it's really nice to see the effort that we're putting forward on the back end be reflected on the front end, and just seeing how, like, when I was joining these calls before being on the steering committee, I know that I felt like I was learning so much. And so just seeing that others are feeling the same way about it has been a learning for me. And I know that it's something that I will continue to carry as we plan the future calls for this year.
Love that. I think when I was reflecting on this question, last year was a tough year for me. And when I talk to people, I think a lot of people have kind of these peaks and like valleys. And what I realized is, if I want to show up with deep intentionality, supreme authenticity, from my truest heart expression of what is my purpose, why am I on this planet, what can I do with this life that I have been gifted? I realized that in order to show up, I really need to learn how to regulate my emotions, regulate my body, so that I can get in this state of coherence. Because when I'm in a state of coherence, I can respond and not react. I can be strategic and thoughtful, as opposed to perhaps defensive and fill in the blank of whatever word you might resonate with. And so it's this realization that in order to be the person, the leader, the husband, the friend that I want to be, it's going to be important that I take time, create the time to prioritize working on myself. And I've always known that, but yes, last year was like the big, listen, buddy, you want to start your own company, you want to consult, you want to do all these things. Here's what's next for you. It's not telling everyone else what they need to do. It's just looking within and doing that. So is there anybody who wants to share with us kind of what their learning was from this call, something that impacted you, your organization? Feel free to use the raise hand thing. That's probably the easiest way to do it. I will demonstrate under reactions. There's a button that says raise hand, and so it'll look like that. So I'll lower my hand, and we'd love to hear from 1 or 2 people.
Josie, I see that you unmuted. I'm not sure if you're speaking or if that was on accident.
No, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So one thing that I had to learn, we started restructuring this past fiscal year, and to have all like my team players, and we're a very small facility. We're rural, but what I did learn is that we have to come together, just with us 7 people here, to be able to make an impact on the community. One call that we received this year, we helped a lady find her service animal, and it really stuck out in my mind because just when you think all hope is lost, you have that one person that might brighten your day up. And then your whole staff becomes like in your circle of, reuniting each other again. And I think that as long as we continue to impact, our county, and help the best way that we can, um, I truly think that it takes special people to want to do our jobs, for one, because we all know how hard, rescue shelters, stuff like that are. Um, so I guess that call just really made me very thankful for my team, and that they have stood by me as I'm a new director. So it's just amazing to see the, still having an impact, and still see that there are very nice people in the world.
Oh, I love that. Thanks for sharing, Josie. Cindy, what you got?
Hey, yeah, that's a great point. Hi, all. I'm Cindy, and I actually have a horse rescue in Southeast Kansas, and I give horses that are slaughter bound or on that trajectory of forever home. I do not rehome. I am at For Life Haven, and yes, the seeing some of the horrific stuff all around me, and I don't know who else is kind of from the heartland, but and I come from Nevada, and there is a different thought process about animals here than from home, and that's very challenging for me. And so although I focus on horse rescue, I also have brought all my canine family members from shelters. I have blue heelers specifically. But one thing I learned this year, and it was on the second to the last call, was the sheer volumes of dogs that are in shelters. When I have gone to a shelter for a new family member, I'm not seeing the behind the scenes, massive everything behind there. I'm going through and seeing what dogs will fit my current pack, right? They're not taking me on a tour of what's going on in the back. And I honestly, naively, foolishly, ignorantly had no idea until that end of year call, the situation that so many, probably most of you in canine rescue, are experiencing. So what that call did is it has increased my philanthropic giving specifically to shelters, the larger shelters in my area, and then some of the smaller rescues that are maybe more of a kind of a holding or a fostering. So my giving is up for dogs. And with the exception of Great UK USA, which is my primary canine giving source, I'm now giving to local shelters. That is because of these meetings. And then secondarily, I have taken personal responsibility for helping dogs in need here. There's been a couple heartbreaking. Again, there's some values of the farmers around me with their dogs. And so I've stepped up, and I'm doing something. One day I hope to be doing more, but because of these calls, I am giving more money.
Oh, thank you so much, Cindy, for sharing. And I think what you reflected reminds me of each one of us, despite our best efforts, has limited perspective. There is always things on the side of us, behind us, and further in the distance beyond what we can actually see. And if we can all just take a beat to remember that and approach things with curiosity and humility as opposed to judgment, it can really open up what we're able to do. And so that's a great example. Your perspective opened up, your heart opened up, and now you're putting action behind that, which is one of the most important things. Self-awareness is awesome. New perspectives are awesome. They can become somewhat dormant if we don't activate them. So thank you everyone for sharing. Thanks for all the chat. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Nadia, who's going to start off this incredible conversation we're going to have with some of our colleagues in the field.
Thank you, Jose, and thanks everyone so much for sharing. So our first speaker is going to be Connie Ash. Connie's the director at Mended Paws Sanctuary. And Connie, I just want to shout you out for a moment. What stood out to us about what you posted was how you highlighted finding community in this space. That definitely resonated with me. And you shared a little bit about the plans that you have going into this new year. So please expand upon what you shared, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. So we are a tiny rescue in the largest county in Arkansas. And so we came, a little bit of background here, came to be because of another rescue that's in our community who was just randomly euthanizing any bigger dog or pit bull, or they only wanted the small little fuzzy ones. And so we came to be, and we're very small, but we have a huge area. So we do all of the abuse and neglect with the sheriff's department. We try to assist the sheriff's department with a drunk driver on the side of the road with their cat at 2 a.m. We take the cat, this car is going to be towed. So we do a lot of different things. But one of the things that we were finding as a small group was we were really mad all the time about everything. And I honestly don't know how I found Maddie's, but let me tell you, that was the game changer. It was like, oh my gosh, there's a whole world out here, a whole community suffering like we are, trying to do the work that we're doing. And everybody has the same exact issues. As we started it was literally life-changing. Like the first month I was on Maddie's, I couldn't get off of it. I was up till 2 a.m. just over and over and over looking through the education and the community and how willing everyone was to be supportive of each other. And there's no animosity among groups. It's just refreshing. And so, you kind of get the feeling like you're alone and you're in the forest and you can't find your way out when you're in rescue. And we got to talking one day about going through the stages of grief. And I really feel like as an organization, that's where we were. We were either in denial that something was really as bad as it was, or we were mad because it was bad. We got to bargaining a lot of people. Depression, some people were just sad all the time. And then you just kind of accept your plot in life and you figure, okay, this is the best it's going to be. And this is how I'm going to do it. So we are in Northeast Arkansas. We are 1 mile from the Missouri state line and 3 miles from the Mississippi River, 60 miles north of Memphis, Tennessee. So we call it the Flatland. We're the Delta. It is one of the 6 poorest counties in the state of Arkansas. So that's a huge stepping stone for us. But reading through community comments, we're not the only person in that situation. Others are too. So, when you're going through those emotions, it's just hard to get anything. It's hard to move forward. It's hard to make that organization grow like you want it to do and be what you want to be for the animals. We take in dogs primarily, but we have rescue chickens on the property. We have taken rabbits. We do horses as well. This past year, we had a very traumatic event with a horse, which was about the time I found Maddie's, because we were really dealing with the trauma of that animal. And so it was a great place to start. When we started, Dr. Robinson's year-end podcast was amazing. It was eye-opening for me personally and as an organization, because we were at that kind of give up or keep fighting, give up, keep fighting. Where are we going to go with this? And then, as Dr. Robinson had pointed out, that resolutions are about the absence of something. We all want to say we want something, but it's really about the absence of something. And so that was like, wow, okay, so what is the absence that we want? What do we want? So we want less stress, but that's part of animal rescue. What we don't have and what we do need and what we know that it's never going to go away is there's always going to be a need, and there's always going to be too many animals to save and too many phone calls in the middle of the night. We just know that's going to happen. But what we decided after that presentation and sitting around as a group and talking about it was that first off, we just need to count our blessings. We have saved a lot of animals over the last few years. We've taken in huge packs of 20 at a time, which is a monstrosity of an overtaking for us as a group, but we've done it and we've done well with it. One of the things that we also realized was that we get so caught up in the day-to-day of staying ahead and keeping our head above water that we're not doing anything to nurture us. I did manage to take a few classes through Maddie's this year. We now have a marketing plan. We have changed some of our adoption policies. We are working with the homeless shelter, which I happen to sit on the board, and I never connected the two really. So we're now working with a homeless shelter. We're making a way for them to keep the animal at the shelter with them, or if not possible, the animal comes and stays with us. And then we bring the person back and forth or the animal back and forth so that they can spend optimal time together. So that has been huge for us. And all of that came from rethinking, we would never adopt to someone who didn't have a fence. But this year, going through all the things with baddies, we now have several. We actually even have a foster that doesn't have a fence. And that's we laugh about it now because in the past, we would have never done that. Never. So when we counted our blessings, we know we're in a better place. But one of the things that we weren't doing was taking care of us as a group or individually. I am a kind of a unicorn. I have several small businesses. One was a yoga studio, and I had actually turned my yoga studio over to another person because I just didn't feel like I had time. I needed to be at the shelter. I needed to go take care of that call. I needed, and I had literally stopped unrolling my yoga mat because it felt like one more task rather than something for me. So instead, we've kind of said, okay, everybody's got to have a day out of this. Don't call, don't touch them, leave them alone. That's your mental health day. So some of that has changed. We've kind of come to the realization, again, we can't save them all. We couldn't stop some of the cities within our county initiating breed specific bans. We tried, spoke to city council after city council, and it didn't help. We also have come to the realization we are not in competition with any other organization. That's been huge for us in the small community. As I said, the other organizations sometimes will pick and choose, and they'll send us the bottom of the barrel. Literally, got a call Sunday with a dog that they're going to euthanize because it bites. It's a 6-pound Shih Tzu. Okay, it's a 6-pound Shih Tzu. It's not like he's going to rip your arm off. Yeah, we'll take him. But they felt like they had no avenue for him. But we'll figure out something to do with him. We also had to acknowledge our victories. We reunited some. We ensured others were safe, others that stayed with their families. We made friends along the way. Some of them we might want to get rid of, but we did make friends along the way. Like I said, we partnered with the sheriff's department. We partnered with the homeless shelter. The sheriff's department was interesting. If you get arrested and they tow a vehicle, what happens to that animal? So we actually took a golden retriever and held her for 4 months while the gentleman was incarcerated. And the minute he got out, he was so thankful because all he could worry about, even though we had told him she was safe, was is she really safe and what was going to happen? Because she is his only family. So, we did have some wins. Gratitude is big for us. We truly believe we have a village that helps us, but finding Maddie's extended that village. It added more resources to the village. So in fact, I have a friend that's in rescue who's having back surgery, and I'm like, go to Maddie's. You can spend 6 weeks just doing nothing but learning. I mean, there's a lifetime of education available. So how do we want to show up in 24 fully? We're not throwing the towel in yet. We can't simply focus on housing, feeding, and sheltering. We're going to have to educate the community. which we now have an education plan, thanks to one of the classes I took. We're partnering with the library to try to get that implemented. We know we have to educate the community. We know we have to focus on us. We have to be healthy for us, and we have to know our why. Sometimes we forget our why. And as we went through Dr. Robinson's class, that was one of the big things, know my why. Because it's easy to get so bogged down in just the mundane, do it, head down, got to do this, they got to be fed, somebody's got to walk this dog, somebody's got to do this, to understand that, hang on, everybody take a deep breath. And we've started doing that now inside the shelter. Everybody take a breath. Okay, now we can go. So that's where we are. Thanks for letting me ramble.
No, Connie, this was fantastic. Thank you for, being vulnerable. I just want to quickly reflect that I appreciate you sharing about the grief, that comes with doing this work that we love so much, and how you turn that around through what you've learned, and listening to others. So really appreciate you being here, and please take a look at the chat because you're getting a lot of love there. So thank you so much, Connie. Can we get Erin on the floor, please? So that we can kick off our next speaker. So next up, we have Erin Hooks, who's the Director of Development at the Humane Society of... Erin, help me with the...
Catawba County.
Okay, thank
you. You did good.
Yes, and Erin, I just want to shout you out because your post stood out to us because you centered self-care, which I know Connie also talked about, and it's something that we all try to practice. So very excited to hear what you're going to share with us. So take it away.
Okay, well, just very quick little background. I moved down here from Michigan to North Carolina about 8.5 years ago. I'd been on kind of a fast track. I had been in the Air Force, so I had that training, the go type A personality, keep going, do the best job you can, never stop. And I had an experience where I had a fall while I was out running on vacation on my husband's birthday, which I really shouldn't have been. Badly broke my arm, needed surgery. Surgery went south. And I ended up with necrotizing fasciitis, was given last rites. They thought I wasn't going to make it. Talk about, Connie mentioned taking a breath. Talk about taking a breath. So that was my big breath. My first time, I think, in my life, I decided I have to slow down. I have to think about it. I was given a second chance. My husband and I picked up from Michigan, moved to North Carolina, where we'd always had. And I said, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to go back to school at 58 years old. And I got an MBA in nonprofit management. I began volunteering at the Humane Society because, like all of us, we're all animal lovers, and obviously, and that was my dream. That's what I'm going to do now. Maybe I'll find a job after I graduate. Well, things happened serendipitously, and I graduated, got my MBA, just shy of being 60, and the director of development left at our Humane Society, and I was hired for the job, which was just a dream come true. Well, but my personality, that type A thing, took me right back again. And yes, have I raised money? Yes, have we gotten some great grants? Yes, have I learned all these things? And here I am. I was on, I heard about this Maddie's fund. So if I listen to these group chats every week, I'll have a chance to get more grant money, Ooh, well, I started learning things by listening to these. Amazing, right? And every week had some nuggets for me. Every week I learned a little bit something about a shelter operations that I didn't know about, or a rescue I didn't know about, or international things, which were fascinating. And then I came up on, I believe it was October 24th, and I have to go, I keep forgetting her name, Tai Ma, was advertised that we were going to be talking to this shaman about self-care. And I thought, Maddie, have you jumped the shark? That literally, I thought, what is this about? Oh my goodness. And, I sat down, turned on my computer, and what a life-changing experience that was for me. By watching that, she really gave me the permission to take that break. And I'm still doing this. I do this several times a day. Luckily, not when I'm driving, but I do that several times a day, because we're all in such incredibly stressful positions. I'm, you know what, I'm back in my little cubicle. I'm writing grants, I'm researching. I'm not always out there with the animals, and I wish I were, but that's not my role. And a lot of the self-care is learning your role, learning where you belong. And after Taima's presentation that was so valuable, then came along Dr. Jyoti Robertson. And to me, the two almost coalesced in my mind. I was trying to go through to who said that and who said which, what, and they were like different parts of the same, I don't know, snow globe to go with Jyoti's, the way she looked at things, and that's your life. And I love that image in her presentation of holding that globe. And we are holding our lives in our hands. Yes, there are things we can't control, and that's probably the number one thing I've taken from all of this, is you can only control what you can control. There's things that, you know, we can't control that kitten running across the street right there that I see. I'm like, well, I have jumped out of the car and chased it, but we can't always do that. We have to find where we are in our lives and in our organization. Myself, like I said, I'm writing grants, but I also come home and do TNR in my neighborhood with the feral cats. I live right down from some apartments. So I'm at work doing this, and then I go home and do a different side. And that's little more things that are going on. And then that type A kicks in, and I've got to catch every cat. And then I do this, and I bring it back to myself. And we all have regrets. I'm just looking at some quick notes I made, and like Dr. Robertson's, her phrase about remembering and forgetting well. I had never heard anything like that. And learning that you can acknowledge something, whether it was a failure, whether it was a great success, but you can remember that, acknowledge it, and then let it go. That little image she had of the dandelion seeds, you know, flying off. I think they all landed in my lawn, by the way. But you know, these are some nuggets that, I mean, they're life-changing. And I would encourage everyone to go back and watch those videos again. And if you were like me, the first thing going, what the heck is this? And open up your mind. And I'm not saying I am calm and serene. No, I'm not, still not. I don't think any of us ever will be. I tell people all the time, I think those of us who are working in the animal rescue, we are the only business in the world that wants to be out of business. And that's kind of a strange goal to understand. But I think I'm trying to think of some of the other things that Dr. Robertson said was, what do you want to be acknowledged for? Because I know we have days, I believe, you know, Connie mentioned that you're just, terrible things happened, and you're just come home and you're beating yourself up. But you know what? You have to get up the next day and go back to work. And how do you want to be acknowledged? How do you want to be recognized? Dr. Robertson and Taima both said that in different ways. Dr. Robertson was, what do you want to be acknowledged for? Taima was, how do you want to feel going to work? And those are things we can control. Again, just going back and watching that video. For myself, you know, I can look at my spreadsheet of numbers and going, yeah, got that funding, and that's great. And sometimes you can lose yourself just in numbers. And it's really helpful to suddenly turn those numbers into animals, into whether it's a cat or a dog, and into the family that animal is going to. I'm going out to dinner this week with a wonderful woman who has funded the free spay-neutered low-cost individuals for over 1,000 cats. I mean, what an impact she has had in our small community. And this is someone who just approached me and said, do you think we could do this? Oh, yes, we can. And those little things, taking those, yeah, there's that dollar sign, but here's an animal, here's a dog, here's a cat, here's a family that have been together. And I have to constantly go back to that when I'm working those spreadsheets, when I'm running those reports, that, you know, these aren't numbers. These are animals, these are people, these are families, these are our lives. So that's really, I hope that was the one quote I think I used in my thing that one of our TNR warriors around here, she said that doing what we do, especially with TNR Animal Rescue Anywhere, it's like trying to drain the ocean with a teaspoon. And I would add that you're trying to drain that ocean with a teaspoon in a tidal wave or a hurricane. There are days that feel that way. But we have to give ourselves time to reflect and really, truly acknowledge where we are and what we're doing, the failures, the successes, everything in between, and acknowledge, forgive, and get back out there again. So that's what I've taken for. And I want to say Maddie's has been a great gift. So I thank you.
No, thank you, Erin, so much. Nadia, you're muted. Go ahead if you have anything you want to.
I just wanted to shout out Erin for what you said about like it's not always going to be perfect, and I resonate with the type A personality and the TNR obsession. Let's get as many cats as we can, but it's not about perfection, right? It's about practice, and that's something that I learned last year, that it's called a practice for a reason, that it gets better over time. And I think a lot of folks are discouraged to try to calm our nervous system, to try to implement these different techniques, because it doesn't work immediately. But that's the thing, that you have to be consistent and try whenever you can. So thank you for sharing, Erin. And Jose, I will hand it over to you so you can take us to our next speaker. Thanks, Erin.
Thank you, Erin. And before I do that, I just want to say something that Maddie Lu, so a woman I'm working with, many of you know Maddie Lu, she says, you're always practicing. It's whether you're being intentional about your practice. If you're practicing, working 60-hour a week, reacting, judging, all of those things, that is, you are practicing it. And so that shifted my mind recently. And I'm like, oh, I am practicing everything every day. What do I want to be practicing? And a huge shout out to Mindset Coach Ty. She has changed my life, the way I think about things. And me and my husband are currently being personally coached by her right now for the next 4 months. And so excited to see what happens through that. And so next up is someone whom I have the highest levels of respect for. She is a friend. She is a mentor. She is a trailblazer in our space, and that is Dr. Sarah Pisano. She is the founder and the leader of Team Shelter USA. She has quite an impressive resume, from being a shelter director of one of the biggest shelters in the country in Miami. And I'm so excited, Dr. P, that you're here from Costa Rica, coming in to us to just share what your ahas have been for the past year. So welcome.
Thank you, Jose. Straight off the beach. So excuse me for my. So yes, thank you. And I also want to shout out to Connie and Erin, because you touched on so many amazing things that I talked about too in my post. And that is number one, what I read a lot about psychology and brain psychology in my work. And Jose, maybe I'll just take a second so people who don't know me understand what I do. Is I'm going to be 60 years old this year. And I started in animal welfare in my early 20s. And my disclaimer is, back then, holy cow. I wasn't thinking or doing the things that I'm doing or thinking today. And I always bring that up because I am now a consultant for the last 10 years, helping shelters reach their full potential, whatever that it always will. For me, it means the combination of life-saving and public policy, because so many of our shelters are either public, government run, or a hybrid with a nonprofit. And that blend has this broken system has been, it's been why we are stressed, because it was destined for failure, right? It's just, it wasn't a system 100 and something years ago set up for all of us to save animals and keep animals and people safe, right? So That's why we're struggling. And as we look at what we could do differently, that means we have to think differently. And in my work today with Team Shelter, I've done probably between 150, 140, 150 consults, I think 27 states. I've been in the biggest cities and the smallest, most rural cities. And after visiting over and over all these organizations that from the outside look dramatically different, guess what? The mayor in Dallas, Texas, said the exact words that the mayor in McCreary County, Kentucky, population 15,000, said to me. The same exact words. And I get chills thinking about it. Over and over and over, people would say to us, you don't understand. We're different here. I'm just going to make something up. Our commissioners don't care about animals. Whatever it is, they think that their situation is unique. And Connie and Aaron both touched on that these calls help us look at the rest of our community and say, wait a minute, we are all struggling with the same thing. And so my work is to help shelters, again, whatever that means, ... to reach their full potential. So when I see a shelter, and by the way, I'll just use a cat example because this is a really good example. Way back when, right? Cats are flooding in the shelter because we told everybody if they were outside, they were stray. And we're going to put them in the shelter so their owners can find us. And God bless us. We thought it was the best thing to do, right? We even made laws at the state level, ordinance level, saying this is what we had to do. And we had to hold them for a stray hold so that their owners could find them. But way back then, we didn't have data. And so now, of course, we know that less than 2% are reunited, and that goal is not taking them into the shelter isn't getting us anywhere. So when I think about the community cat programs today, when I was director back in 2005, I was like, I can't do that. I can't put them back without knowing who's feeding them. Why? I was afraid. I was afraid of a negative consequence, right? So now in my work, when I unpack why a shelter organization, could be in a municipality or private, why are they not doing what they usually know is working in other shelters, or maybe they don't? What is it? And it's always fear, always, always fear that if we do that, something bad is people are gonna complain or what have you. But I found that just really having these conversations with people and drilling down who is afraid and why are they afraid. And sometimes I found, well, we just want to make sure the cats are cared for. And it was from a really good place. We don't want our public to complain, or whatever the situation was. Finding out where those pieces, maybe it was a misconception or what have you, it was always based on that fear. And when you talk through things, the most important thing that I do, number one in my work, has nothing to do with me or my history or knowledge or education as a veterinarian. It has to do with, Jose, did you meet Connie? Because Connie went through exactly this. And she thought the same things. She felt the same fear. She walked through this. So connect with that person. And so those connections are just examples of other shelters who did it. And I experienced it myself as well.
Wow, Dr. P, that was really insightful. And it made me, so on this piece of paper that I'm looking at, I have things that I'm working on a professional level, and then I have my notes for this call. And above that, it's how do we move past our fear and our judgment? And how do we get the fear and the judgment to stop informing our policy and our practice and what we do here? And so, one of the things I always ask myself whenever myself and teams, whenever we're kind of at this crossroads, is what are we afraid of? And people always look at me like, we're trying to talk about something else. Why are you bringing all these feelings into it? And I'm like, because they're driving what we are and are not doing. What are we afraid of?
Right,
You know?
exactly. And I read a lot about psychology, like influence, like why are people making decisions or not decisions, and over and over and over. And this is well documented, is that our human brains amplify and focus on the negative. And we've all done it. I do it. I fight this daily, as we all should. 100 amazing things happened today, but one person was a jerk. And I'm going to go home and think about that one person. We focus on it. We have to fight that, because guess what? That becomes the whole story. People suck. But you know what? It was one person out of 100. And over again, I get this. Oh, we have to lock the cages because we have a theft issue here. Really, we have a theft issue. So let's talk about that. So when was the last time an animal was stolen? Well, it was before I started. So it was like 1984. No, it was 1985, right? So it happened once, and we design all our decisions around that fear. So what we have to fight psychologically, in particular in animal welfare, is this the whole story? I mean, does everybody really suck? No. And when we do that, are we open adoptions? We trust, like I was never doing, hey, Jose, what can I do to help you keep or place your pet? You think I was doing that in the early 2000s? No, but I was judging you, right? And because like I was afraid, no, you're not a good owner. So I blah, 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 right? So this is something that it will make us so much happier as people. And it really will transform your work in animal welfare when you step up and catch yourself,
Yeah. I think of something that one of my good friends tells me whenever we're talking, and she's like, your feelings are real, but they're not reliable. And I'm always like, feelings are real, but not always reliable. And I'm just like, ooh. And that's why, Erin, when you talk about Tai Ma's coaching, he talks a lot about coherence, because coherence is what removes us out of fight, flight, fawn mode, so that we can be in the state of alignment. And that is where we find our intention. That is where we can really operate with a lot more strategy and clarity. And so thank you, Dr. P, for all of the wisdom. Nadia, back to you. I think we're going to see some reactions if anyone wants to share, right?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Pisano. So I would like to open up the floor to those who want to share any reflections based on what our three speakers shared. And if you have any follow-up questions, maybe there was something that was mentioned that you want to touch on. We welcome you to add something in the chat or to unmute. And I do see, Kathy, I think this might have been more of like a reaction question, but I see that you added in the chat, why are fear and negativity the predominant emotions? We don't work from positive and hope. And I wonder, Dr. Pisano, if you want to, I know you expanded upon that already, but if you want to address that comment that Kathy left in the chat.
I'm scrolling through.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, there's a lot.
Sorry. So wait, why are fear and negativity the predominant emotions? We don't work from is that one?
Positivity and hope. Yeah. And I guess just more like what you see it with all the work that you're doing with shelter.
Right. Okay. So here's what happens. On your personal, let's just take your personal Facebook feeds, you are getting, or even at your shelters, you are seeing, you are working with animals who were abused or maybe neglected, or maybe it was an access to care issue. And so that's a negative situation that you're dealing with. And it's my understanding, it's a fight or flight. It's a Neanderthal brain trait that we have to protect ourselves from negative things happening. Therefore, we amplify them. And therefore, they stay in the front part of our brain. And this is where you can read any psychology magazine or text, and it speaks to this. so that it's in the forefront of your brain. And so one of the things that shelters do is exactly survival instincts. But one of the things shelters do is say, well, wait a minute, I want to make sure, because we see these are animals that were abused and neglected. I want to make sure that never happens again. I'm afraid that if I make a decision to not put somebody through 150 invasive steps, that pet will end up in a negative situation again. And it's from a good place where we have this fear, and it's to protect them. But what has happened is I have seen this fear over and over and over in almost every single nonprofit and public shelter. That what has created very serious barriers to live outcome, very serious adoption barriers for people just like my vet school classmates, 3 different classmates, 3 different states, who were somehow denied adoptions with adoption agencies, right? So this to me is something that's so serious in our industry that I feel that we wouldn't be dealing with the drama and trauma of overcapacity to the extent that we are. And I can only tell you about the shelters that I historically worked with that are overcapacity. We can sit there and witness many missed adoption opportunities during our time there. So this directly affects what we do in animal welfare. And again, rightly so, we need to be, we of course, we don't want we want those animals being cared for and all of that, but we're using the wrong parameters to judge people who are coming to adopt. And it's only because of fear of I'm going to make the wrong decision and it's going to happen again. I think Colleen mentioned, not all people are bad. So when we, think about that, also remember the news, they're looking for the bad stuff. They're looking for the worst of the worst. Why? Because it captivates us. And so we're going to remember all those horrible things that happened. And it's again, it's something we need to really take a step back and say, wait a minute, is this really the whole picture? Is this really what's happening?
Thank you so much. And Jose, I know we only have a few minutes left, but I would love for you to expand upon the coherence piece. So we have a question asking if you can expand upon that and how folks can achieve that state.
Yeah, well, Erin talked about it. She did this whole move, if you all saw, that's called switching. And switching, and there's actually something happen where you cross your legs. And so you could just YouTube switching. That's one of the things you can do. A lot of it is on YouTube, different exercises. For me, how I get into a state of coherence is meditation, breathing. If I'm really activated, meaning really upset, sometimes going for outside for a walk, if you're able-bodied and want to go for a run, something to kind of get that collection of stored energy that's in your body. It needs to go somewhere. And so anything, I journal, sometimes I do speed journaling. I allow myself to be as irrational and as judgy as I need to be. I just need to get it out. And I'll just write pages, and I'll give myself 5 minutes. I'm going to write down everything I'm feeling. And then I'll go back and say, what's real? What's true? What serves me in this moment? And so it's about doing those kinds of things that once upon a time I used to roll my eyes at, I don't have time for that stuff. And now I'm realizing that's exactly what I need to create practices around. That's exactly what I want to create time for, because that's what's going to allow me to lead more strategically. Right now I'm in this interim role at the Humane Society. That's where Kathy Jansen's actually from, the Humane Society of Southern Arizona. I'm working as the interim chief program officer. And I'm starting the meetings that I run with meditation and mindfulness and talking about why it's important. What is our intention in this meeting? What do we need from each other? I've been doing needs assessments with all of my team, trying to understand what are your needs so that I can navigate our relationship at work more effectively. These are all little things that all add up. So a state of coherence, a state of just being able to, when you're activated, bring yourself down, so that you can actually make decisions from that place. And so I know in our final minute, I just want to thank all three of our speakers for sharing your insights and your wisdoms with all of us. And for everyone who participated in the chat, thank you as well. To my co-host, Nadia, it is always such a pleasure connecting with you and our whole Maddie's team behind the scenes who make the magic happen. There is a whole host of people who make this happen. And as we kind of go into, close out this call, I want everyone to think about something. I would love you all to think about a word that you think about that encapsulates what you want for yourself this year. What is the word? Mine is acceptance. I even have it on my wrist. And I want you to spend some time thinking about what can you do every day, little and big things, towards whatever that word is. Feel free to put it in the chat. Feel free to just take some time for yourself and reflect. But being intentional and keeping these things front of mind will absolutely change the trajectory of your life. Every moment is like there's a new door opening constantly, right? Into like what reality we're walking towards. And so intentionality is the difference between those of us who are co-creating our lives and those of us who are just reacting to what's happening to us. Which do you want for yourself? So have a happy 2024. I can't wait to spend more time with everybody. And have a great rest of your week, everyone. Adios.